Brian, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rich. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. The best part of our meeting is here, share the success and recognitions. Both of our student spotlight and above and beyond are from West today, and we're going to have Principal Carrie Schwietering introduce both of our.
So Carrie Schwietering, principal at West Education, and I want to just recognize that Jake Zern, our AP, and Shekinah Dillon, our AP, is here as well. This is my first year here, and this is an incredible opportunity that you guys all do this, of highlighting a student and a staff member. Our staff member is on, and our student is actually on a video that he had made, but Lisa Mingo, who's his case manager, is on too. It helped support that. So in that, I'm going to hand it over to Jake Zern, our AP, who oversees these programs, but appreciate my team and appreciate the opportunity to highlight incredible people.
All right. Hello, everybody. I've worked with Mohammed for 2 years during his time at West in our transition program. He is a member of Edina Public Schools, and unfortunately, they're not here yet. Hopefully, they're on their way so that they can see their student represented. Mohammed has made a video reflecting on his time with us at District 287 and specifically at West. I'm going to play the audio from my phone through the speaker of the speech that he has put together to share with us tonight.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Qasim, a student in the transition program at WEC. I want to thank Edina for sending me. I have learned a lot of things, like how to fill in a job application. The staff helped me get a paid work experience in the building as a custodian. I cleaned tables, windows, and stuff. I liked the job. My favorite part was cleaning the windows. It was cool to see the difference I made. When I get my next job, I can use some of the skills I learned over here in high school. I was really quiet. I did not talk to anyone. Now I talk. In fact, now sometimes teachers have to tell me not to talk so much. I feel more comfortable now being myself. I really connect with the staff. I look forward to continuing to grow at WEC. Thank you for this opportunity.
And that's not a joke. He really did not talk much at all during his kind of initial months with us at West, but the team with Lisa as case manager and all of the teachers at West have done a lot of really great work with Mohammed. So we've been really proud to have him. And secondly, we have our Above and Beyond award recipient online as well, which is Brooke Davis. She's a social worker who is, oh, there she is. Hi, Brooke. And she's worked primarily at the start of her time at West with our transition program. And this year she shifted to supporting our Tier 3 in our high school and our Tier 3 in our transition. She's a vital part of our team. She works super hard to make sure that staff, students, and families are supported with everything that they need to get from us at West. And she works extremely hard. I don't know how she does it, but I'm honored to be able to say that she's gone above and beyond. And I'm very proud of her for winning the award.
Thank you. Any board members have any comments or questions? Does Brooke want to say, and does Brooke want to say anything? Did you
yeah, thank you so much for this award. I really appreciate it. And I couldn't have done it without my colleagues, and the West Education Administration is amazing. Shekinah, Jake, and Lisa are Carrie. They doing so much for the good work climate. Lisa's on the call. I got mixed up. Those three nurture such a great work climate, and our colleagues always talk about how lucky we feel to have them, like in our school.
Awesome, thank you. Please pass on to Mohammed just how proud we are of him, and then we hope he keeps working hard. It sounds like he's a really hard worker, and that he keeps talking. I love that story. That's amazing. And Brooke, thank you for everything you do. And we know every time it's fun when we have the, the student spotlight and above and beyond from the same place, because we know that the reason that our kids are coming in and saying these amazing things and doing these amazing things is because of the adults in the building. So it's a great mission. So we really appreciate it. Carrie and Jake and Shekinah, you are welcome to stay, but you don't have to. And you're welcome also to go back out into the snow. That's what you.
How about a round of applause?
A big round of applause.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have our instructional report, which is the comprehensive needs assessment phase of our ESSA identification update. And so we have Dr. John Voss, who I think is going to tee us off.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Dowd, and board members. Sorry, it's an old version of the title.
As she's starting the presentation, do you want to just introduce who you have with you? And
Sure. Yeah, Melissa Broding, our Director of Special Education, and Cariana Garcia Luna, who is Manager of Curriculum and Instruction this year. Okay. Let's go on the first slide. It's not the one.
this one is.
That's not the.
We're getting a little technical. Do you want to give a little background about what it is, John?
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the ESSA comprehensive needs assessment. The Every Student Succeeds Act is the U.S. federal law reauthorizing the Elementary and Secondary Education Act that replaced No Child Left Behind back in 2015. Its main purpose is to ensure equitable, high-quality education for all students, including marginalized groups. It's our state system for measuring schools based on proficiency in reading, math, science, and also graduation rates, English learner progress, and other quality indicators. In Minnesota, we use the North Star accountability system to identify schools that need support to improve outcomes. This fall, we had 3 schools identified. Two of our ALCs were identified for graduation because they're below 67% graduation rate. And all Minnesota schools that are below 67% are identified there. So there we go. Thank you. So yeah, ESSA, we can go on to the next one. Oh wait, I can actually do it too. There we go.
Look at you.
There it goes. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, if I make that move, then you can go on. You can put that back. So the 2 ALCs were identified for graduation rate below 67%. And then our tier 2 programs were identified both for the 4-year graduation rate and for targeted support on student groups that were below reading achievement levels expected for particularly Black and free and reduced lunch populations, and the same for attendance. So those are the areas that we were identified for. And just for clarification too, the tier 2 schools run across 4 of our sites. And so it's not just one school, it's the programs that are operated all 4 of those sites in special education. So then the impact of identification is that we'll now have the opportunity to implement their established 3-year process with guidance and support from Brightworks, formerly the Metro EXU, And beyond the requirements, we really see this as an opportunity to strengthen our systems and supports and to provide more aligned universal practices across all of our sites, which will benefit our strategic plan in support of our students and our families.
Yes. All right. Juanita, will you go to the, thank you. All right, so as John had shared, we have support through this process. So Compass is a layer of support that's provided in partnership with the MDE and the Minnesota Services Cooperatives. And in our region, we partner with Brightworks, as John had mentioned. So we have a facilitator who's been working with us through this. His name is Kerry Muse, and he has been just a tremendous partner, really with us each step of the way, always available, and just been a really nice layer of support for us. Brightworks, not specific to this process for the CNA work, but we have worked with Brightworks in a variety of different ways at District 287 and maybe in your organizations as well. They support us through like low incidence community of practice groups. They have resource libraries, just lots of information and resources for teams. So we're also kind of leaning into that and happy to extend more partnerships through this. This next slide gives you an overview of our timeline. We are happy to report that we are pacing very well to meet our target of having our action plan written and ready for submission by June 15th, 2026. So with that, I'll pass it over to Kariana, who will walk you through some of the bubbles.
Yeah, so this is just for the first year. It's a 3-year process. We had Brightworks support for 4 years within the process. The first step was like the identification of schools. So it was Waltz, Gateway, and the Tier 2 program. The first thing that they kind of went through was the CNA process. This is a comprehensive needs assessment, and we'll go more into a little bit. And then a root cause analysis. Whoops, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh, sorry. Root cause analysis. Then it's a selection of evidence-based practices, followed up with the writing the action plan, which is due on June 15th. And like Melissa said, we are on track in every one of our programs to meet that June 15th date. The comprehensive need assessment. This is really just kind of the starting point. It helps kind of identify those root causes. Is where the sites are really looking at data and evidence and kind of saying, what are these root causes? And kind of really focus their strategic implementation of evidence-based practices. Data-driven is for focused improvement. And it's kind of like the basis for implementing the Minnesota MTSS framework. Analysis.
So in the root cause analysis process, we have the opportunity to dig deeper into all of the factors that create challenges for graduation, reading comprehension, and attendance. We'll lay those all out, literally tag them on a board, and then come up with identify which have the greatest leverage for impacting improvement, and then create a central challenge statement. And some of the things that have come up so far is defining and strengthening our Tier 1 and MTSS across all of our contexts and programs, ensuring that we have professional development in place in these areas that meets the needs of multiple roles and programs, sustaining family and caregiver engagement, particularly for attendance, has been one that we've looked at carefully, and then developing staff capacity to gather, analyze, and make meaning of data to then use in some of the decision-making around that. And then focusing in on one that will provide us evidence-based practices to implement.
Yeah, so the evidence-based practices, is kind of except in reviewing what we would need the highest impacts and identification. Do you want to say more? We kind of already went through that the last one, but I don't want to say more to that. No, evidence-based practices. I didn't know if you had any other notes on there. Okay. All right. And so through this process, I just really want to note that we've had both site level and district level representation in the process.
So with Gateway and Walt, the process has included the principals and APs, counselors, teachers, and district representatives, myself, John. And then tier 2 has had district level directors, assistant superintendents, assistant directors of special education, principals. So it's been a big group that's kind of come together to do that process. So I think it's just really important to recognize that they really come together, site and district, to do this work. And then next steps, just kind of give you an idea where we're at and where we're going. Gateway and Walt just completed kind of the first process and have begun the root cause analysis this week. And they will be identifying their evidence-based practices. They're hoping by mid-April. Tier 2 completed the root cause analysis and identified the following practices for support. One was the graduation progress monitoring, and the other one was the infrastructure for continuous improvement. On a district level, this coming week, the district will be participating in the semi-DLT. This is a facilitated, get that word right, kind of evaluation of our district's Minnesota MTSS systems. So really looking at infrastructure, family engagement, assessments, all those pieces in there, and what we have set up, where we need to really focus on as we're doing this. And then June 15th, like I said, is the day that we have to have our action plans in. So. Oh, yeah. Any questions?
So it's a 3-year process,
Mhm.
and the assessment is somewhere around 7 or 8 months, it sounds like. So then after the after your last step there, what's the next 2 years? You're implementing and then assessing and tracking progress?
Go
Is
ahead,
that-
either way.
Yeah.
And-
The implementation of that evidence-based practice, and then monitoring what that progress is, what the results are, how we can make adjustments, and revisiting that until we get to the point where we see if we can be exited from the identification.
Yeah. Have these sites been identified in the past?
There have been identifications, I think back pre-COVID, because we've worked with what was then the Regional Centers for Excellence.
Yes.
Resource Training Institute. We've had facilitators before, usually around graduation or similar efforts like that. But it's been a few years, and there's been changes in how they do the process too. But I think it was really different and helpful here. It's a really structured process with a facilitator who can guide that through, and then also help move that into our taking it over and implementing when we get everything lined up for it.
I have 2 questions. I was curious, we talked a lot about kind of the software that you might use to track student achievement. And I was curious if maybe, to what extent does the user friendliness or lack of user friendliness of these different software programs kind of impact your work or support you in tracking student growth?
You can, okay, wait. I guess my feelings are like, it could be better. And I think it's something that we have identified that needs to be better. And it's one of the things that's come out of this process of that we're talking about, that both like more user-friendly for teachers, more user-friendly for students, more user-friendly for families. And so that is one of the things that we have identified, that to kind of improve that engagement is something we need to really solidify. So,
I'll just add that through this process, as we were looking through kind of our root cause and moving through things, what came up quite a bit was on implementation and how are we implementing and training with the resources and tools that we have. So as we moved into what we've already identified for our evidence-based practices, we see that as an outcome that will be a part of our action plan. So wouldn't necessarily mean that we need something new, but just to go deeper into the implementation that we already have and strengthen that moving forward.
Yeah, I would just like to add that this is year 2 of collecting at a district level student improvement and growth data. Implementation, we had, in year 1, we had a system, it was not user friendly. In year 2, we invested in a system, and we are making it become more user friendly and synergy. And it's part of our system that we're trying to collect data and build that multi-tiered system of support. And that's that Minnesota MTSS that we're talking about. So this has not been a consistent practice. And monitoring implementation, supporting teachers and paraprofessionals and collecting student data and putting it in a system is important. And so it's part of our current, when we talk about our current strategic plan goal on progress monitoring, that's exactly what we're talking about. We now, knowing that we're talking about evidence-based practices here, what the team is doing with our FOG, our focus area work groups that are working on next year's strategic plan, is how do you bring this together? So it's not one more thing. This is also uncovering things we know about implementation of our current strategic plan and support needed at the site level. So they're coming to head in root cause analysis with and those goals should be tying to our strategic plan as it.
You have a second question,
Yeah.
Dan?
Oh, yeah, just out of curiosity, you mentioned the assessments that you're creating. I was curious kind of the, where you have a say over in what those assessments say, or where the state kind of dictates through standards, this is what has to be on the assessment.
For assessing student progress, yeah, we use things like FastBridge for monitoring literacy growth and math growth and a number of other progress monitoring tools. There are a number of other things that we use with, particularly with our Tier 3 programs that are more designed for emergent literacy learning. And so we're not dictated to by the state in terms of that. We do have some latitude. We try to use ones that are evidence-based everywhere we can. And then also that have a research base behind them so that the norms we're looking at can be applied. But that's why when we're talking about emergent literacy, there are things we have to use that are different than what you would get from FastBridge and state testing.
For Tier 3, you probably use FastBridge in your districts. And then for students that aren't able to access FastBridge, then you do some frequent based measurements. But those are not normed. It really is
So do you guys still do, isn't there an alternative MCA? Do you still have some students?
Yeah.
Purchase?
We don't use the MCAs for progress monitoring. So progress monitoring, we use FastBridge and CDF. But our students still take MCA or E.
And then I had another question too. So just to kind of clarify in my mind, so the alternative high schools, we're still expecting that students graduate within that 4-year time frame, that 9th grade, 12th grade, 11th grade, or the 4-year time frame from when they start the alternative school, or?
Sure.
So that's a really, really good question. Currently, both those are right around 70% for a 5 to 7 year grad rate. It's not the state's expectation is that kids graduate within 4 years, starting the 9th grade through 12th grade, right? They recognize that ALCs don't necessarily fit into that, knowing where kids are coming in and why they're going to an ALC. And so recognize that usually that is a 5 to 7 year grad rate. And so, yes, we're identified because of that 4-year grad rate, but how can we use this work that we're doing right now to even improve that 5 to 7 year grad rate? Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, because I wasn't expecting, because usually the students are behind in credits.
Yep,
is what-
exactly.
Which is why they go to an ALC.
Yep.
I was also wondering too around, have you guys noticed any success around attendance, increasing attendance for those students?
So that is really kind of a big a thing we've really identified both in the ALCs and the tier 2. Attendance is really a big issue, and one of the reasons we know that kids are not meeting that credit attainment. And so it is one of those identified pieces that we are looking to work on. And like, what does that mean? You know, how do we increase engagement? How are we working with families to communicate around attendance? What are the systems we have in place?
I know, didn't they take the requirement out of ALCs for seat time too? So
We have an attendance issue. If you think about like a tiered system of ALC, most of our districts have an ALC, but it's just need something more than that. So we do see patterns of behavior or attendance being an issue. It's pervasive. It's a root cause analysis of why we're not hitting that 5 to 7 graduation. And we are looking at models like Modern Classroom to support online as well as it's. So we're looking at model as well as attendance behavior.
Any other questions?
Sounds like something we're gonna hear more about.
Yes, so the follow-up we will be sharing as we go through the process as we're asked and stuff. And so, yeah, I look forward to talking to you more about it. Thank you.
The next item is under business services and labor relations. We have the FY 26 budget revision, and Scott Lesage, our director of finance, will present this, which we will be asked to approve.
All right, just making sure. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, all right, sounds good. Well, hello members of the board, Superintendent Dowd. Tonight, I'll be presenting the FY 26 revised budget for the current fiscal year that we're in. As you recall, the board approved the original FY 26 budget last June. Around this time of year is when the district does a revised budget that we bring to the board for approval. During this budget presentation, our goal will be to cover each of these areas listed on the slide that include the purpose of the revision, the legislative changes that we're aware of, the budget report, and then budget highlights. All right, so we'll dig right down into it. The reason and purpose, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this in your regular districts, so this will be some repeat, but the reason and purpose we do a revised budget is because when the original budget's created, it's based on a lot of assumptions and estimates, which is very normal, right? It's done in the prior fiscal year for the next fiscal year. And as we know that have been part of districts, a lot changes over that time period. So now that we're further along in the year, we're able to have more information such as changes with grants, the items listed there, employee contract settlements, enrollment changes, legislative changes, and then we have a better idea of other impacts such as the inflation and economic changes, what we see. So by knowing more of these things, it allows the district to be able to update a lot of the areas of the budget. Again, I always say this is a budget. So by definition, it is an estimate of income and expenditure. So I just always jokingly say that because by the time I present this to you tonight, there's probably something that's changed and this is already wrong. But we hope it's not that wrong. So. All right, now we can dive into some legislative changes. We'll highlight a few of these. These are hot topics that you probably have your finance leaders are presenting in your boards. So these are probably very familiar things, but obviously the formula allowance is a big thing. So as you recall, currently it's set at a 2% floor, 3% max, right? So for the current fiscal year that we're in, it is marked at 2.74, so roughly $7,481. And we actually just found out recently for FY 27, it will go up 2.69% to 7,683. Just as you probably have seen in your finance directors or executive directors that presented, this does not keep pace. Typically, I have something in my presentations that shows just the gap over time, right? It's pretty tremendous. So, but my 10 years in schools, I will say when I started, we budgeted 0%. So, because we never knew what we were going to get. So having a 2% floor is kind of a treat. So as it's been said, and I know I said it before, it's kind of a bad business model, right? When you're Superintendent Chase Anderson from Wayzata always says that if you are getting 2 to 3% new money, but you're having to pay out substantially more, typically wouldn't be a business that you would necessarily want to go into. So hope that's okay that I say that. All right. Another important hot topic area is compensatory funding. I know you probably are all hearing about that in your districts because the majority, they say there's winners in what they're projecting for next year, and then there's non-winners. And so it sounds like a lot are non-winners, and a lot of those are probably your districts. What we do know for the current year is that it was the hold harmless. So it was the greater of the FY24 or FY26 compensatory unit. So that didn't change. Obviously, next year is kind of a wide open thing. There's a lot of kind of unknowns with what's to come. Your districts have gotten estimates. We've gotten estimates. And then they still have to spread the overall dollar total. So it will change again. But that's a really big impact for a lot of districts across the state. And then finally on this slide, this special ed transportation aid, the reimbursement reduced from 100% to 95% in the current fiscal year. And I think, Marcy, you might know, I think it's earmarked for FY27 to 90%. So that we're seeing that decrease. And then finally listed on there, the student support personnel. We just mentioned that because those are funds that actually flow from your member districts to us. So we budget, I think right around 480,000. It's not to exceed 40,000 per district. And then we're able to use those on, I think the focus is more social emotional learning as a focus. So we use that aid for those areas. Continuing on with the legislative changes. Also, I feel like I keep saying hot topic. There's just lots of hot topics. I think before COVID, I don't even want to say it because school finance is so complex, but I look back at that and I think, God, that was nice. That was kind of boring. There wasn't a lot of new UFARS codes. There wasn't a lot of this interesting funding that came up. And the challenge is that they come up and then a lot of these get taken away over time, right? So you build these into your budgets, you get used to them, you really like them, and then the funding goes away. So the summer school unemployment aid, this has been a very hot topic. So I was just texting with some of your business managers today, and we were talking about this. I think there's a feeling that will for sure be made whole this current year. And then kind of the future of that is unknown. I know that the estimated costs or the costs that have come in have been above estimates. But I think there's more to come on that. And maybe your business managers have talked about that. But I think our reimbursement that we received last year was around $718,000. Other things listed on here, the special ed apprenticeship program for intermediate districts. I think Marcy might have even talked about this before, but that's about $2 million per year for FY26 and 27. And kind of the goal behind that is to address the severe special education teacher shortage. And so the legislature kind of earmarked those dollars for the intermediates, if I remember correctly. And then finally, hot word of the night, hot topic, the Minnesota paid leave. So I'm sure Kevin could talk to us for a long time about this, but I didn't invite him up because we got to get through this presentation. So, but that is a recent one that started January 4th. And if you recall, that is, I believe, 0.88, and it's split between the district and the employee. So it's an additional cost that's come into play for us too. All right, now let's dig over to the details. So in your board, I have to apologize in advance for the next slide. I'll go here and then come back. You can't really see up top. So I'm hoping on the documents that you have that you're able to see it a lot better. My understanding in the past, you might have even gotten a big long sheet. I'm sorry I didn't provide for that. I'm trying to watch the budget. So, but we'll dig into this. Before I do, you're going to see kind of when we finish the presentation that on the aggregate, on a macro level, there's not a lot of changes, but I can tell you there's a lot of work that goes in it behind the scenes. So And it's a huge collaborative effort. It literally is budget meeting after budget meeting, and then it's your site level leaders, their admin support. A lot of work goes into this and a lot of coordination. So I just want to thank everybody that was part of this. Obviously, I'm new to 287, so it's a new experience for me, but a lot of work goes into this, so I want to thank them. And finally, before we dig into it, for new board members on here, our budgeting is way different. So I know when I was at Redwood Area Schools and then went to Meeker and Wright Special Education Cooperative, it was basically learning everything I did in a regular district, how the per pupil funding is, how you build your revenue, and then you build your expenditures out from there. This is kind of turned upside down on its head for all intents and purposes. There's some of our programs that are still similar to yours, but for the majority, it's literally we build the expenditures and that's where we lay in our revenue, right? Expenditures equal revenue, but it makes sense for the type of entity that we're in. So I just like to point that out because it is a really big change. It is a really big difference from your member districts. All right, so I know you can't see this, and if you feel better, it's small on mine too. So, but we will just look at. We'll first start out with the unassigned fund balance area of the budget. So what makes this up of this area is the district-wide admin and operations, the ALC and academic education, and then of course our special education. So I won't go through all of these super in detail. I'll just highlight a few things, but the district-wide admin area, we're forecasting an increase in expenditures by about $363,000. A few of these were mostly driven by the increase in work comp. The indirect cost reductions in the grants from the original budget. We're not able to use some of those dollars or as much dollars for the indirect costs as we have in the past. And then a couple service contracts that needed to be increased. And then I'll just mention, this is the area that we have the core fee. That's roughly $1,505 per APU, I believe. And that's been the same since FY 15-16. So that stayed the same. That generates about 1.5 million for us in that. And then you can see, obviously, it's closer to 14 million, but the rest is kind of made up of tuition billing, itinerant service, interest income, and some of those areas. The ALCs, this is, we are projecting a decrease here. This is due to the ALC, the counts going down. Just year over year, we're seeing kind of a decrease in that area. And this is also where we have a $5 member district ALC stabilization fee. And that's based on the adjusted pupil units. Obviously, our pupil units are going down, so those revenues are going down as well. And then NSO, just with its continued growth, they drove kind of a lot of the increases in the expenditure areas. And so we are requesting a transfer, or we're anticipating a transfer to be made to cover the projected expenditures over revenues in the amount of roughly $228,000 that will be covered by the special education area that will cover below this. Career and Tech is projecting an increase to the fund balance due to the projected growth along with new programming and grants that have contributed to this expected increase. And then finally, the bottom one, we'll do better next time with the picture up there, but the special education area, which is kind of our big area, that's expected to stay pretty consistent with the original budget and staying pretty stable. And that includes inside of there, which we'll touch on later too, transfers of $300,000 to the assigned fund balance for strategic priorities that will cover, and then the $228,000 that will cover for the ALC academic education areas that I just talked about. All right, so all that said, on the top part there, when we look at all those areas that I just covered, we are projecting an unrestricted general fund balance of 8.64, which is in compliance as stated up there with the board policy of maintaining a minimum of 8%. And this is very close to what the original budget was projected at 8.66. So right in alignment with that. We ended last year at about 9.59, if you recall from the audit presentation in January. But if you look, our dollars are staying very consistent. If you're able to see the fund balance sheet or the revised budget sheet in front of you, the dollars are staying consistent from year to year, but obviously the expenditures increase, which drives down the percentage. And feel free to stop me if you have questions. Now let's look at the assigned areas. As noted on the slide, and kind of hard to see, These are funds that the district chooses to track separately. And we'll just focus on a few of these areas. So the operational adjustment reserve, this was an account that was established during COVID and it isn't needed anymore. There's not a lot of dollars in there. You can see it's 95,721, but we'll be transferring that back up to the admin operations area that we just covered because that's where it originally came from. And strategic priorities, again, one that I mentioned, we will be transferring roughly 300K from the up above in special education to these strategic priorities. And obviously, these are used to support the priorities defined in our strategic plan. And then finally, tuition adjustments. You can see on the bottom there, this is a pretty important one. There's roughly projected to be about 2.12 million sitting in there. And these are pretty crucial funds that I know that the district used during the pandemic, just when we saw pretty big decreases. And this also helps protect any potential loss of revenue in MD tuition or other tuition-based areas. Dan, is this the fastest I've ever gone through a budget? Dan's had to sit through like my hour-and-a-half presentations.
That has been wonderful.
Okay. I was told to hurry up. I'm kidding. I think I probably told myself that. All right, so now let's look at the restricted fund balance areas. These are funds that are required to be tracked separately per statute, and they have specific uses that they can only be used for. You're probably used to seeing some of these in your districts, used to your business managers talking about them as well. I won't go through each one of them, but we'll just highlight medical assistance. We are projecting to see a fund balance increase. And as a reminder, in this area, these are the dollars that come in here come from the Minnesota Department of Health and Human Services. So this is separate from the dollars that are up above in special education. It's kind of an area we're able to bring in some additional dollars, and it helps offset some of our other programming costs and reduce even some of the tuition, the billings up to your districts. Safe Schools here, as you probably recall, these come off of your levies at your districts. It's the $15 per adjusted pupil unit. And so you can see those dollars we're projected to see a small increase in the fund balance, and we utilize these for costs related to safety measures. So we utilize them for things such as safety coaches, school nurses, counselors, and other eligible areas. And finally, you can see on their LTFM, this will be something that will be coming to the board in April with. I know it wasn't kind of outlined or highlighted on that, but this is an area that the district here can use to plan. It's part of the 10-year plan that you're used to seeing in your member districts. But with some of the debt falling off, it was agreed upon last year that to keep the levies stable, we would increase our LTFM. So you'll see that coming in April, and we'll start to see that fund balance grow, just like in your districts. That'll be earmarked for upcoming projects, roof projects, or other things that are necessary that we can plan for. All right, so we'll just go through some highlights. So in summary, we're projecting a small increase of roughly 110K in the fund balance overall. So that's what I talked about earlier on, where it doesn't look like there's a lot of change here, but there was a lot of work that went on in the background to get to there. So revenues are projected to be up 1.6 million, while expenditures are estimated to be 1.162 million more than the original budget. So all right, and then just kind of noted on there, special education enrollment is consistent with the prior year. All right, and I will go over this very quickly, but I just like to put it on there so you guys can see it because it's what we just kind of went through, but it shows kind of the breakdown of those transfers that we would be looking at making, and that's that 95,000 I talked about. And then the 449, which will include first food service that we'll also cover, and then the 300,000 to strategic priorities. So finally, we'll move down to the non-major funds. Most of these are funds your districts also have that you're probably very familiar with. Your Fund 2, right? Food service, your Fund 7, debt service. The only thing we really don't have is community service, which is your Fund 4, right? So just highlighting some of those. Food service, I know board members that have been on the board, and then to new board members, this is an area that we we come to the board to do a transfer in the fall. The program can't self-sustain. It's just literally numbers, right? So we don't have the volume that your districts do to really make it work. So here we will be estimating a transfer of roughly 450,000 to offset, that will come from the general fund to offset the estimated deficit. Debt service, this fund balance continues to increase. I know in your districts, you'd go, oh my goodness, how does that increase? Because usually you get 105%, right? And then kind of a safety for you. And then every couple of years they wind and take that out, which makes your levies look like they're kind of going all over the place, right? Here we have kind of a different thing. So with the sinking fund that's held in escrow, you can see that it's building up. And the goal is to get that, I think, up to about 29 million. So that can be paid off in 2029, I think. And then looking down further, the construction fund, this includes proceeds from the facilities maintenance bond, the 2022A. And this has been used on various maintenance projects across the district. I believe Brian Schultz in October maybe went through a presentation with the board that showed all the projects that have been done with that. We expect those funds to kind of be used up in the next year. So you can see projected small fund balance there. We're just like in your districts, especially West Tonka with all the projects going on there. Our fiscal year ends at kind of an imperfect time, right? So that's when all the construction's going on. So fund balances can carry over from year to year. And then finally, the internal service fund for our health and dental is expected to stay very strong. I think we're in a very healthy position with that. And I think we're pretty lucky that we are, because I think districts across the state and across the country are not seeing that. So I think that is a really very positive thing for the district. All right. Keep saying all right, like we're going to be done, I promise. This is the second to last slide. So revenues overall are projected to be 138 million, an increase of 1.8 million from the original budget. And then expenditures for all funds are expected to be 137 million roughly. That's an increase of 1.12 billion from the original budget. So, and with that, I will turn it over for any questions.
Always appreciate that. You strike a great balance between like educating us and not being too in the weeds. So I know you're joking about it being one presentation, but it's important, and it's exactly what we need. So thank you. Questions or comments from the board? We are going to ask the applicant to approve this. Such a good job. Really nice.
So you said that there were funds transferred into food service?
Yep.
So what was the, what issue made it a deficit there?
It's an annual thing. Marcy can probably speak better to it, but the program itself can't sustain. It's literally due to sheer numbers. Like if you're in your districts and you go to the lunchroom over that time period, it's packed. There's lots of kids. You have a lot of kids going through. We just don't have the sheer numbers like the districts do, like your districts do, but we have to obviously provide the service. So your cost per, like your fixed cost or variable fixed cost is going to be the same for your school that it might be for us in certain ranges. So then by default, our overall cost is more expensive. I know that's probably really confusing.
This is a pattern for District 27. Typically, there are enough students to generate enough money to cover the food service. Even though we do shared contracts with you so we can purchase together because we're unable to. And so just for sheer size and smaller districts have the same situation. There's not enough to cover the transfer.
So even with the change in legislation to the free meals, that still didn't
Yeah, it's not
solve
covering
that
the
issue?
full- Not if your pupil count is low, it's not gonna cover.
And then my other question was, I was just wondering if there were any districts out there asking legislatures for another hold harmless because of the metro surge that has happened?
Yes, it is a hot topic at the legislation right now. Not sure where it's gonna go.
And then just to ask a very quick clarifying question. So you mentioned there are two funds being closed. operational adjustment reserve and then the curriculum project. That's part of our approval tonight with the revised budget is closing those funds.
I think it would be part of it. Yeah, we would plan to do those. So like with the transfers, those amounts might vary. Obviously, the fund balance, like I said, it's a budget, so it's an estimate. But with those two that you mentioned, we are planning to close those out.
Okay, this is the budget revision we did this time of year every year. We'll see the final one later once the books are closed, and this is helpful. And we, I love that we just never see surprises. For new quarterly, and we see stuff in the board packet monthly, so it looks really good. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the FY26 budget revision as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Keith. Any further discussion? Thank you. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the budget revision is approved. Okay, next up, we have Dr. Kevin Witherspoon, who's going to do 2 items under human resources, and the first one is the tentative agreement with Education Minnesota Local 249. Yay!
Well, thank you, Board Casey, members of the board. I'm sorry, I'm sick, so my goal is to not hack up a lung while I talk today. So I'm excited to be seeking approval of the tentative agreement with Ed Minnesota Local 2209 Union. I would first like to thank the negotiations teams for the collaborative process. It really was a collaborative process. It was, we took our time, we did it right, I think, and collaborated. So I'm just happy for our teams. The district in Ed, Minnesota, Local 2209, reached a tentative agreement for the 2025-2027 contract on February 18th. Members of the Local 229 voted and approved the TA on March 6th. I'll just discuss a couple of highlights. Wages and compensation for licensed staff for the 2025-26 school year. They will receive a 3% increase in each step. For the 26-27 school year, they'll receive a 2.12% increase for each step. Our hourly staff, so ESPs, school healthcare specialists, student safety coaches, will for 25-26 will receive a $1.20 increase per hour. And for the 26-27 school year, we'll receive $1.15 increase at each step. Our interpreters our sign language interpreters for the 2025-2026 will receive a market adjustment ranging from $1.04 to $4.13 per hour, depending on the step. And then in 26-27, we'll receive a $1.15 increase for each step. For retirement benefits, 403B matching contributions increased by $250 at each step. There are no changes to the single or family deductible plans. The district still contributes 100% for single deductible and 90% for family. Dental, life insurance, and long-term disability benefits remain unchanged. So a total two-year package of 8.98%. And we recommend, district administration recommends approval of the tentative agreement.
And coincidentally, we had a meeting with Kona leadership earlier this week, and I can say that they said, so don't just, if you don't just trust Kevin, they also said that
verified
that it was a very collaborative process and that they were really happy with how it had all that. I'm happy to pass that on and agree that I would also recommend that we approve that based on their questions. Yeah, go ahead, Caroline.
Were there any changes to contract language at all?
We did a lot of cleaning up of language. So there were no major changes, but we did clean up a few things. We have some TAs for some training in PD and those types of things. Some MOUs, sorry, I said TAs, some MOUs for those.
MOUs for training and what?
PD.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to approve the tentative agreement with Local 249 of Education Minnesota as presented. So moved by Leslie, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ken, any further discussion? And thank you. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, and the TA is approved.
Thank you.
Super. And then that, say here. We've got resolution directing the administration to make recommendations for reducing programs and positions as necessary. That's a really long thing. We are going to be asked to approve this as well.
Yes. So it's that time of year again, where district administration will start doing their staffing, the process for staffing, and budgeting for next year, looking at programs. So tonight I'm here seeking your approval to direct the administration to make the necessary reductions in programs and positions if needed.
Can you talk about what, like, historically, we've approved this every year and often have not had to do that, right?
Correct. And I don't necessarily anticipate we have a lot of changes. I think we will have some changes based on student projections, our budgeting, staffing. So we'll have to take a look at all those programs as we start that process in our budget meetings. You will do the same resolution in your home districts as well, probably. So.
Well, except for the probationary teachers in that state statute, right?
So we will bring a different resolution in the end of April for that. Yep. This is to make the changes if necessary, and the next one would be the resolution, the end of April board meeting, if we have to make any non-renewals of probationary staff.
For like the tier 1 staff?
Yeah, yep.
So this is like helping us adjust for the projections.
It's allowing us to staff and
Yeah.
project, yep.
Okay. Other conversation? Okay, this one is a resolution, and we've got Vice Chair Ginestra, who's going to jump in as clerk, and actually, well, we're going to ask for a motion first, but I just want to say that. Okay, is there a motion to approve this resolution as presented? Moved by Brian, is there a second? Second by Rich. I can't. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
It's a resolution.
Oh my gosh, sorry, I just said that. A little. My brain and my mouth are not speaking. Chair Ginestra will call the roll.
Alex. Shannon Andreessen. Shannon Andreessen is absent. Michael Birdman. Michael Birdman is absent. Ann Casey.
Aye.
Dan Ginestra. Dan Ginestra votes yes. Kenneth Liss.
Yes.
Dr. Leslie Locke.
Yes.
Caroline Long.
Yes.
Michael Remicall.
Yes.
Brian Roth.
Yes.
Kim Ross. Kim Ross is absent. Keith Tate.
Yes.
Richard Zek.
Yes.
You guys have it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, just another couple of items. The AMSD report, the connections is attached to the packet, and it does contain an item about the various budget reductions that districts across AMSD are doing. I started kind of, after Dr. Lodge Rogers mentioned this the other day, I started kind of adding up our member districts, and the number got too big, and I thought, I'm going to stop here. So it's a large number. So it's best to all of you who are navigating that in your districts, because I know it's really hard. Anything from the AMSD meeting last week? Okay. Okay. The calendars are attached. We do not meet again in March because of spring break, so we'll have 2 meetings in April, but we won't see you again until the second week of April. The schedule for Get on the Bus and 2209 board meetings are in the packet, and there's also a nice handy dandy paper flyer for the next Get on the Bus, which is with itinerant services. Are we going to a location?
We'll be here.
Okay, so no bus. But we'll still call it Get on the Bus. We'll be here on April 14th. So buses coming.
Come on.
Okay.
We object to having no bus over here.
Right.
We like to drive around the parking
We
lot.
really did have a good time. We had a good time on the bus.
There, got it in.
Maybe you get accepted in my car.
Yeah. Great. Does anyone have a minivan? Okay, now we're getting. Is there anything else on the board announcements side? I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, once we're on the table. Anything? You guys have news. Go for it.
I'll let others share.
No, yeah.
All right, well, we have two, I think, big points to share. One is that Public Schools is headed to a referendum, actually, on April 14th, same day as to get on the bus.
Let's put out good vibes on that day.
Absolutely. Good luck, Sean. As some of you may know, we're going to the voters for approval on 3 items. One is a renewal of the technology levy. That is no new tax increase. The second is the capital projects piece. And the third is to build a swimming pool onto the addition of Wayzata High School. So early voting has begun. It's at the District Service Center, which is just a little bit to the south of here in Plymouth. And election day is April 14th. So I'm proud of my board colleagues for doing all they can, as well as the YES committee, to get out the vote and make sure we can bring this one home. So I'm very excited for how we're providing for new student enrollment. And then move on to our second announcement agenda item. As some of you may know, our superintendent of schools of 18 years, Dr. Chase Anderson, announced his retirement several months ago, September. We, after some pretty extensive deliberations, interviews, have chosen Dr. Rob Virgin, one of the assistant superintendents of Eden Prairie Public Schools, to succeed Dr. Anderson. We're very excited for this succession and to appreciate Dr. Anderson for all of his years of service. He's been a remarkable leader and really made our board better, I believe. So we're excited to welcome Dr. Virgin aboard. Pun intended.
We in St. Louis Park have also been the beneficiary of one of Eden Prairie's assistant superintendents, so recommend. Well, congratulations. I know it's a, no matter how well it goes, it's still hard. So it's a.
Yeah, it'll be different for sure.
Yep.
Oh, well.
Yep. Okay. Any other items for once around the table? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to adjourn?
So moved.
Then you have to drive home in this.
Move by Mike, I'll second. Is all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and we are adjourned at 7:34.
Good week.
Thank you. See you in April.
Right.